Alright. Welcome back, everybody. Good morning, Illuvium community. Welcome to the stream. We just got ourselves a bunch of stuff to talk about. Actually, within just the last 24 hours, we have a bunch of announcements, bunch of updates, and this is the kind of stuff that we were looking for. We were worried about maybe there being a little bit of a cold winter of sorts in terms of updates for Illuvium. Right after the Illuvium Pro League, of course, there wasn't really much. And thankfully, it's only been a couple of days, but I feel like our fears are kind of going to be washed away. We do have a new patch to go over in regards to the testnet to give us a bit of a glimpse as to what we can expect to see in the upcoming weeks. We do, of course, also have the town hall that was just announced. Of course, plenty of updates about Illuvium as a whole tend to show up during these town halls. And it's kind of like our Nintendo Direct, so to speak. It's our little mini E3s of sorts, if anyone remembers those. So that is basically what we're going to be going over here today. It should be rather exciting, of course. What I do plan on doing, we're going to go through the testnet patch first. I want to give that absolute perfect dedicated attention, go through, because I feel like there's the potential for a lot of exciting things there. Then when I'm talking about the additional updates, we'll hop into Overworld. I'll talk about them while I'm looking around and doing my Overworld hunts. Wrap up the day as usual with some Illuvium ranked, Arena ranked, and then our Illuvium 0 cooldown lap. But with that, I don't want to waste too much time because there is plenty to talk about. I'm going to pull up here the patch in just a moment's time. So this is what I'm talking about as it disappears on me, but it will come back here in a second, I promise. Starting things off with some almighty scuff. There we go. So there's my checklist. There is the update. There we go. Let's get this green screen active and working here. And we can take a look at what we've got cooking here. So of course, this here is an update for Illuvium Arena. It'd be patch 1.16, but again, this is the testnet, so anything that I'm talking about right here, right now, could absolutely change. Any sort of values or balance changes or anything may end up falling out of the patch, but in the past, at least, when a patch has made it to testnet, for the most part, that is what comes out in the next latest patch. So I do want to go over it real quick. First off, some more additional localization, mainly surrounding the main menu itself. Always just not going to spend too much time on it, but just getting more languages in the game, absolutely fantastic. Good to see. This is incredible, though. New drone augments going to be coming in to the Illuvium Arena. And to take a look at the list that they've added here, we got Spike Up to give a well, these are drone augments, so I would imagine this would be to all of your Illuvials. So you'd give all of your Illuvials Thorns. Blast Cannon. Deal 6% damage, but take 3% more. A very interesting one. Health Package, just stacking more health, why not? Solid Start, basically giving you Granite as a drone augment. Windy Aura, adding some dodge chance, sure, absolutely. Offensive Boost, gaining attack damage, speed, and omega power. So just offensive boosts, appropriately named, across the board. Defensive upgrades, plain and simple, just defensive upgrades across the boards. Resistances and mitigation going to be given. Giving your Illuvials starting energy right off the rip. Some critical strikes as well for crit chance, crit amplification, and just some raw omega power as well. What I like about this, of course, is just that all of these drone augments, these aren't super fancy. They're very simple to understand. And I would absolutely be able to quickly pick up the game, for example, and understand what I'm upgrading based off of this. There's no crazy interaction, so to speak. They're very simple, and I absolutely like it. Want to play around with it. In regards to what I think is probably going to be the best variants, I'm going to probably say that we're not going to see any of offensive or defensive upgrade, at least in my opinion. New batteries, I feel like everybody will be fighting for, just getting starting energy. Rogues are probably going to like critical strikes, that's totally fine. I imagine we may not even actually see Omega Overflow. But the solid start, for example, absolutely. That and the new batteries, I think, is probably the best two things to come out of this. I'm curious about Glass Cannon, though. This very well could be incredible, especially for, like, say, a rogue team, where they just want to blow you up extremely quickly anyway. And by getting those first couple kills, depending on what the augments you have, it kind of makes up for your lack of defense because you just sustain forever. That might be dangerous. I'm very, very curious to see how that's going to end up turning out. The Augment Recycler. So on frustrating games where the augments and components and offerings don't match the build you're going for, meet the Recycler, a reroller that swaps the components or forge augments for a random one in the same category. Drag the unwanted item there. We can kind of see it's there on the right-hand side. The holostasis is in there currently, but during the placement phase, drag the unwanted item into the recycler. After the fight, a new item from the same category appears. So this is interesting. It trades, again, the item's immediate use for a shot at the one that you want. And this, honestly, if there's one big complaint that I hear from like players, it is always just in regards to RNG. I didn't get the item I want. I didn't get the weapon I want. And I would have won, but I didn't get X, Y, or Z like component. Like this, I like, because you're trading being able to use that item immediately to hopefully then be able to min-max your build as you see fit. So like, say for myself, I might take a massive hit early, even more so in the game. But if it means later in the game I get exactly the kind of composition that I was looking for, regardless of how the results are, I at least feel like I have a little bit more agency in that. Like, that was my choice. I was in control of that. And there's not like, oh, this is what you got. Good luck. No, this actually, like, puts the ball back in my court, so to speak. It was my choice to wait to get a better augment or something along those lines. And I really, really like this here. And you could do this with components as well. Like, I know personally, anytime I see in these early rounds that I get a blue component and a yellow component, I just kind of shake my head a little bit and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not using this because I don't want to go for support right away. But I can even just trade the components in as well, so that would be extremely exciting and help me make the builds that I truly, truly want to build. The one thing to note, though, is that the legendary augments and synergy imprints can't be rerolled. Alright, fair enough there. Tailoring upgrade. So in the past, it used to be that if you pulled all of your units off the arena and only left the ones that you wanted to specifically try and get a certain affinity or a certain component, you would have a very, very good chance to actually getting what you wanted. Now in this patch, it counts the bench as well. So you can get a lot of augments that you just straight up didn't want to get as a part of, say, like one of the crates or any of the Abyssal Basin type of matches. You can really get yourself screwed with that. But now it's just going to be actually a little bit of a mixture here. So two of them are going to be tailored with the board and bench in mind. But one of the options will be strictly based off of what you have on the board. And I think this is a happy medium here. This way, like, you can, if you're fast enough, you can still pull your units off, leave what you want on there, take the risk that you're going to end up throwing that round, but giving yourself the better chance of getting that augment that you want. I like that. I like that a lot, honestly. Silver, hello, welcome, good morning. Hope you're having a great day so far. Now, I was talking about randomness with items, but what about randomness with rerolls? With the shorter games making weapon pivots tougher, we've bumped up the weapon rolls from 2 to 4 in weapon amplifier rounds. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So, when I first initially read this, I thought that there was going to be 4 separate times that you can roll your weapon, but no, that's not correct now that I read this again here. Because before, you would just get 2 chances to re-roll your weapon. But now getting up to 4, especially if this still doesn't cost any credits, can hopefully save those games where it's like, okay, my first weapons did not give me anything that I like playing. I know, especially personally here for me, these last couple of ranked games that I have, like I'd be going for either Scion or going for Aegis, and I'd have nothing but rogue and fighter weapons. And I'd have to decide whether I wanted to keep building my traditional comps that I would go for, or actually go for these weapons. I'd feel a little bit better, maybe like trying to play Aegis even if I'm stuck with a rogue weapon, knowing that I have a better chance of getting a weapon that better suits my playstyle. I really like this change. Balance adjustments, of course. The last patch, rogue buffs, yeah, they've established themselves as a threat. That being said, though, also keep in mind we've been seeing a lot more Abyssal Basin, so that is been definitely buffing them up as well. Seeing 4 Revenant much more often has been a little bit of an interesting outlier, so to speak. But that combined with the dominant fighters has a solidified auto attack compositions, elevating air as well. Yep, air definitely benefited in this instance, which shines the brace against the auto attackers. Overpowering synergies and lesser support for the underperformers. Yeah, fair enough. So let's take a look and see what we're going to end up getting changed here. So this is going to be the Wakes, the Quakes, the Gazadep, just the Fox. We're going to see the Omega damage and shields go down, but that's okay, honestly. The Gazatep line is basically there as support anyway, just to really screw with those invokers, at least early on, or anybody who has a carry in the back line. That's what they're there for. The damage and shield is honestly just extra. The Ebb, or the Geyser line here. So, we basically haven't seen it here, but it's going to be, want to bring back the Geyser line. I'm just going to call it the Geyser because I cannot pronounce that for the life of me. Bring back the Geyser line as an off-tank rather than just a caster, fair enough. For that reason, we're increasing its health significantly at the cost of losing some Omega impact to better synergize with Tsunami. So, this is kind of interesting. Whenever I did play with a Geyser, I did kind of use it as a makeshift tank, but you can tell that it just didn't necessarily have the bulk to truly perform that role very well. So I'm happy to see that they're actually going with that direction as well. Even if the healing and the damage does take a hit, just being able to cast more often because you're actually alive is quite a nice change, so I like it. Simple here, fighter dominating the meta, turning it down slightly. Yes, absolutely. Don't neuter it, but turn it down a tiny little bit. Empath is the lowest performing class at the moment. Absolutely love to see it, especially early here. We're going to be seeing some additional shields by 1% in the early rounds. Air is performing too well. Honestly, Air is performing too well just because we're seeing a ton of Rogue. So this is a little bit of an outlier. I'm hoping this isn't too soon of a nerf for Air in particular, but at least, especially for the early rounds, it's a rather modest nerf, and then a 3% nerf at the very, very end here. So I don't think it's too crazy. As long as Air still does get to do what they get to do in terms of dodging more often than not, then I won't complain about this one. Nature, similar to Empaths, Nature's needed a buff, especially on the lower thresholds. I definitely agree. Missing health regeneration going up ever so slightly across the board. Max threshold damage, though, is going to go down just a touch. Sota, hello, good morning. Welcome. I like that they still apply the agency with more weapon. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about when I rolled up a little bit here. This is what makes me happy, because these are all choices that the player can make. I choose to recycle my weapon or recycle my item, not use it right away, and possibly lose some fights because I don't have the stats and effects that my opponent has. But if it means later game that I get the actual augments that I want, absolutely, yes please. And then getting the 4 rerolls to hopefully be able to make the composition that you want, even if the beginning of the game screws you. that's all. That feels just so much better because I can still, like, I think the example that I gave, like, if I'm trying to run Aegis and I get a rogue weapon, a rogue and fighter weapons in my main 3 and my rerolls don't get me anything and I'm stuck playing rogue when I want to play Aegis, I would have myself the opportunity, I can make the choice to still keep building an Aegis team with the hope that I had within those 4 rerolls that I get something that could work with Aegis, for example. And again, that's player choice. It doesn't feel like you're getting screwed, per se, or that you're helpless. So yeah, I completely agree. Composites, Invoker 2's been overperforming a little bit. Yeah, you basically just pick a Scion weapon and then just rush Sinolf. You get it stupid fast. I agree with that 100%. I've definitely abused it 100%. So the fact that they're only nerfing Invoker stage 1, fair enough, honestly. Vanguards, the Rogue bump has helped the Vanguards, Vanguard 3 in particular. Yeah, the Malura Penguin Rogue combo is extremely powerful. I mean, Soda, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know you love your rogues, but hopefully just this 1% adjustment here for Rogue, or for Vanguard Stage 2 anyway, keeps them in check a little bit, but I can't see 1% truly making too huge of a difference for you. Predator buff as well, with rogues being on the board more often. It's a little bit too solid, and we're seeing a nerf across the board with everything here. I know a lot of rogue comps would splash in a Chocoral, I believe it was, just to get the Predator buff with a Gorilla or something relatively early, or you just bring the Chocoral and then just link it up with the Ranger early, and that is a lot of execution damage. Yeah, not surprised with the Vanguard nerf. Yep, fair enough, and at least, thankfully, it's just a tiny one. So, we'll see how that goes. Arcanite. Well, of course, Inferno Arcanite absolutely took the patch by storm. Last patch kind of got turned down a little bit in the one we're currently at, but now it looks like they're going to give a little bit of a buff, but specifically to stage 3 of Arcanite. So Arcanite 4, where the attack speed gain on Omega Power is going up by 10%, as well as the damage based on energy cost. So okay, if you manage to all in on Arcanite, you'll get yourself a little bit of a buff, but trying to get that, trying to actually get Arcanite 4, it's basically an Abyssal Basin exclusive. We hardly ever see any more than stage 1 Arcanites, because very rarely do we actually see Scoriox and a Furiox and a Scoriox and a Phosphorus on the same team, for example. So to get 3 is tough, let alone to get 4, you would need chips to make that happen. If you get it though, small little buff for you. Colossus 3 and 4 are underperforming. Colossus, I feel like, is probably one of the hardest augments, or not augments, but the composites to actually get in the game. And when you do get it, it doesn't feel very good. It feels like Tsunami, honestly. And with that, we are going to be seeing a buff to it, specifically in stage 2 and 3, with a solid 2 and 4% increase, respectively. I disagree with some of the changes, but it looks like a nice patch long term. I hope they add more fun drone augments like those in TFT. And fair enough, I'm curious as to what exactly you would be against in this instance. Not that I would disagree or barter with you, I'm just curious as to what your mindset's at. And the fun ones, like those in TFT, I would definitely be interested as well. I know, like, I haven't watched like any TFT at all, but one of the content creators I do follow a lot, Bloody, started playing it a lot for a tournament, so I've been watching her play the play TFT a bunch. And there's some funny stuff. Like, I know there's like a golden egg, for example, where if you live long enough, you get like a stupid amount of gold and sometimes some champions or something like that. It would be interesting to see like fun, crazy augments like that. But I'm happy to start off simple. So I'm not going to say that I'm disappointed or anything along those lines. Toxic is too reliable and higher thresholds, adjusting its values to put it in a fairer spot. So keeping Toxic Stage 1 as is, but 2 and 3 are going to get a small nerf here, 1 and 2% in regards to the max health enemy explosion. So just that little snowball effect that Toxic can give you, where you get the kill, you get the explosion. It makes getting the next kill that much easier, the next one that much easier, and that much easier. Turning that just a little bit down, especially for the lower ones. And Toxic, I feel like getting like max level with it. I mean, getting, again, Toxic 4 probably requires Abyssal Basin or some sort of chip. But you can absolutely get Toxic 3 stupid easy. Magma, slightly underperforming. Interesting, considering it's been so good for so long. But the damage taken per second on the molten ground is going up by, looks like 10, 5, and 10, respectively here. So Magma gonna hurt a little bit more. I know rogues are absolutely going to hate trying to deal with that. So fair enough there. Now Tsunami, arguably the meme of the affinities here. I never see anybody try to go Tsunami intentionally. Let's see if this change can bring him in line. This is a worst performing composite by far, yep. Making the Geyser a bit more tanky and buffing the damage and refund. We expect that its units can shine brighter. So again, this is for the Atlas line, so Axodon, and for the Geyser line, specifically Flood and Geyser, to get that Tsunami buff. So the AoE damage on Omega, based off of the energy costs, we're seeing 20, 20, 20 across the board in terms of the percentage for its AoE damage. Energy refund on Omega, 2s across the board here. So just trying to make it hit a little bit harder, trying to make it cast a little bit more often, and maybe we can see Tsunami get some playtime. Definitely going to be willing to test it out, but I'd argue that maybe this probably still isn't even going to be enough to actually save Tsunami, but it does heavily rely on how well that buff towards Flood and Geyser end up going. If it becomes super, super tanky and it's just blasting out damage constantly, maybe we'll see it. The Magma buff seems too big. I can absolutely understand that one. Can absolutely understand it. Buffing Empath seems unnecessary. Air got a huge nerf. Thinking that it make Air unplayable and Nature too strong. And then Spore was already nice already. And this is what makes it weird, because if we're basing it off of specifically pro play, like, okay, no, we never saw like Mass Empath do very well. Like, we saw somebody, I believe, in the grand finals try to pull it off. I think it might have been Slooper. Tried to pull off Mass Empath with Mystics, and it didn't go very well. I remember the game that eliminated Furies from the IPL. They tried to go for Mass Granite, Mass Empath with Mystic. That didn't go very well. So in regards to specifically Mass Empath teams, yes, those suck right now badly. But Empath is still so splashable with everything else. I do also too worry that maybe it was a little unnecessary. But it's weird, depending on which point of view you really come from here. And then we don't ever really see Spore. Because Spore, to me, is kind of like a greedy or a self-centered kind of affinity, where it's not truly helping out your allies that much, so to speak. I think there is the energy burn aspect to it, which is a quite nice little utility. But in terms of like the healing, for example, that would only go on to other Spore units. So of course, like the Adorius or the Adorito, and then the Vermiliaire. So those were really the only ones truly getting a benefit from it. Because I know I tried to actually build my own team with Spore. It was like a bunker composition with a little bit of an additional like Scion backline, but it also had a Vermiliaire. I called it Sporios, and it was fun, but I had to be so far ahead already in the game to actually perform with it. It wasn't even funny. What I would find is that my Vermiliaire would always be the last one standing, And sure, it would be obnoxious, but the rest of the team comp just fell apart. But the air buff is partially compensated by the dodge drone augments. Yep, fair enough. And sport buff, yep. No, that's 100% correct. I definitely agree. The drone augment actually just giving raw dodge percent as well is going to kind of offset it a little bit. I definitely do agree. But it's weird when we're having nerfs in one area, but buffs in another, but they can kind of intertwine. Because I'd argue, if I have 6 air, with my main intention of it is getting the dodge buff, I wouldn't want to then add more dodge to already capitalize on something that's already good. I'd want to try and cover a weakness. But in theory, by being maybe forced to get more dodge chance, it kind of... I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I definitely want to see it in action, though. Despite air dominance, Spore has struggled to find a fair spot. Gonna give it help a little bit. We're going to see a 1, 1, and 2% increase on max health healing. So just making the Adorito and Dorius and Vermilier a little bit stronger, a little bit more sustain. And then your Ranger potentially as well. Percentage of burnt energy. That is going to also be going up 1, 1, and 2% as well. So burning a little bit more energy, getting a little bit more healing here for Spore. Weapons and their amplifiers, we're going to see the Strike Boomerang get smoked again, actually, here, with a 20 increase to its Omega cost. And the attack damage off of one of their amplifiers here are going to go down by 5. The Vinebound Cleaver is going to get smoked here again. Yeah, better nerf the Cleaver. It is going to be happening once again with a 5 damage decrease. The Omnivamp is going down by 5%, and then the attack damage you would get from the Chlorophyll Rush amplifier is also going to go down by 5. Emberling Rod, my dear Emberling Rod. So, the Delayed Blossom amplifier, okay, I kind of get this. Having the second Blossom damage hit harder is a big risk and reward, but when it paid off, holy smokes, was it disgusting. And we've seen a lot of clutching up, to say the least. Vertiflow Amplifier going to be getting a reduction in bonus health, but this is where I'm actually kind of laughing. So the Bloodroot Pact Amplifier, this is the one where it gives you 1,000 health and 30% Omnivamp. It's going to get buffed up to 40% Omnivamp. This was already the augment of choice for me. At least personally. The stupid stuff you can do especially early. I don't even rush the Delayed Blossom Amplifier anymore. I rush the Bloodroot in particular. Because you get yourself loaded up with Toxic and Harbinger and give yourself a stupid amount of Omnivamp. The initial fight doesn't go necessarily your way, but the amount of times I've had the Ranger clutch out a fight is overwhelming already right now. So I'm very, very curious to see how this works here in this next patch if it stays as is. Aqua Blaster, what I would argue is probably the best weapon in the game. It is going to see its resistance penetration get taken down by 10%, and the bonus health you get taken down. A little bit more of a Blast Cannon style builds there for that Scion water weapon. The scaling portion as well is going to see the slightest of nerfs with a 5 Omega power reduction. So title penetration, I mean, you can one-shot tanks, basically, with how it was right now. This should hopefully get it in line here where the tanks have at least a little bit more of a fighting chance up against a Aqua Blaster in their fights. And then the scaling wave, I must just not be doing my research because I didn't realize that this was the problematic one. I'd never pick it, I'd just go for the raw Omega power. But I guess the scaling one, especially if you're going for like Harbinger early or something, I guess that makes sense. But it's going to see a slight tune down. The Sprout Guard, this is the Scion Earth Shield looking thing. So, The starting energy, it's actually going to get buffed up quite a bit here. Get one of those casts, one of those big shields off extremely early. The amplifier where the shield explodes is going to get 100 additional damage, and the reflective damage from the reflective barrier amplifier going up by 2. Definitely one of the more underused augments on that weapon, so I'm definitely curious to see how this one ends up turning out. Bear with me, I was getting, oddly enough, a little bit of a headache from the violin there for some reason, so switch it up a little bit, back to the classic. The Elderwood Staff, so this is the nature empath weapon. Specifically for the Piercing Thorns augment, we're going to see a max damage, or max health damage increase by 5%. Interesting, let that empath weapon do a little bit more damage. Nature Templar builds, be ready. So I imagine that's probably coming. The Ember Buckler, so the fire bulwark weapon, going to get that 3.5 second stun upgraded up to 4 seconds when you use the Unrelenting Force augment, but that is it. That is all. Flameborn Staff, the fire empath weapon. Judgment Fall, bonus health going up from 100 to 200. Damage going up by 100 here as well. Searing Echo, the damage over time going up by 2%, while also making the duration shorter so that damage comes out quicker. Fair enough. No complaints there. Suit Amplifiers, the evasive momentum, getting attack speed when you get the dodge going up by 10%. I don't think that you would pick this augment on anything unless you're actually specifically running air anyway. And to be honest, there's probably so many better suit augments that you can pick. A nice change, but I doubt that this will bring it back into the swing of things. The Temporal Flare, every second Omega, the bonus attack speed granted to all allies, going up to 50%. And then Ironclad's Blessing is going to get a 3 hex radius buff as well. Now, how about the augments themselves here for the Illuvials? We're going to see the Arcane Omega Reactor, which arguably to me is a must-have at least one of in every single fight as a Scion player. The Omega power gains per second is just going down by 1. Put in check a little bit more, but I still think it's probably going to be okay. But maybe some of these other augments might be a little bit better now. The Siphon Impact Reactor, we're going to see a massive loss to our health, 100 health gone, and 5 Omega power going to be gone here as well. Disruptive Force Reactor, this was the old Fate Sealer. This is the one that does the clumsy debuff onto whatever it's targeting. The attack speed on takedown going down to 3%. I could honestly see a world where the Disruptive Force Reactor here just keeps getting nerfed until the attack speed on takedown is actually just straight up removed. I think the speed on takedown, while also giving the clumsy debuff, is just very, very strong, and it's to the point where I almost always want to have one on every single one of my teams. I can see a world where this takedown bonus gets changed completely or removed. The Restorating Impact Reactor, you sons of guns that kept stacking 2 or 3 of these in every single match. Well, it's finally going to be getting nerfed at least a little bit. Less health recovered on takedown, less resistances, only by 1 though, so this is arguably still going to be very, very good, especially if you keep stacking multiple. Legendary augments to wrap things up. The Arcane Conduit is going to get 1 less energy on every attack. The starting energy for the Celestial Cycle going down by 10, and then they're trying to buff up this one here. The Titan's Redoubt is going to get a bonus health buff of 5% to bring it to 45. But with that, that is our current test net. Of course, anything discussed here currently in our patch update can be changed because this is, of course, the test net. This is not the complete end-all be-all. Things I'm happy about, of course, anytime we get more languages into the game, absolutely, W. New list of drone augments. This is going to be absolutely huge as well, giving a lot of DPS options in particular, like Glass Cannon, having even the offensive boost, but especially new batteries. I'm curious to see critical strikes as well. I'm very, very curious to see how that goes. But the RNG changes here. Getting the Augment Recycler to be able to sacrifice using one of your augments to try and get one of the same type, but the proper one you want, is going to be an incredible change. Looking forward to that. The tailoring update for those that do try to tailor their board to get the specific augments and the specific affinities that they want is going to be made a little bit easier, a little bit more consistent. But again, you have to make the choice if you actually want to do it. And then weaponry rolls. Being able to actually have a better shot at finding the weapons that you want is absolutely incredible. This is a big change, in my opinion, for player agency, for actually feeling like you're in control of your game and that you just didn't lose because of something that was completely out of your control. You have options now. Your early game might get wrecked still if things don't go your way immediately, but the chances of you being completely screwed out of a game are going to be so much less prevalent now. You have options to recover, and I absolutely love this. So this patch, usually once they post the testnet patch, give it about a month or so, if not quicker, and we usually see it actually active. So I'm going to be very, very excited to see the future hero of Illuvium, Illuvium Arena. Excuse me. But of course, that is not the only things to talk about here today. The town hall has been announced, and while I'm playing Overworld, I gladly discuss some of this here with ya. And get everything popped up here. Alrighty. So in regards to the overworld today, we're gonna go make another trip to Crimson Waste. I am still looking for a cup of coffee. Actually, that reminds me. Inadvertent coffee callouts there, but I still need a lot of fire-based alluvials. My collection for water and nature are pretty well fleshed out, but there are still a couple, especially when I'm trying to make skins as well, that I need. So what I'm going to be gunning for going into these is I need Rileys still, because right now I have exactly enough Rileys to make the skin, but I would have nothing left over. And one of my Rileys are hollow, and one of them is actually not too bad statistically. So I do not want to get rid of either of these. I need to find some more. Carl and Tiru, I already have those suits made. If I could potentially find some Lynxes to finish off my Lynx collection, that'd be incredible as well. But of course, we're not just limited to that. We could find some absolute fantastic alluvials out there that maybe I wasn't necessarily gunning for, but I'm happy to see. I know last stream, we did happen to get 2 tier 4 alluvials in a stage 1 run, including my very first Furiox. I was very, very excited to see that. What do I think about the current conversation in general chat? Neil suggested a new burn mechanic. This is exactly what I would absolutely love. I haven't seen the conversation in particular, but I absolutely would love to have something like that. It solves 2 problems. Right now, grinding for levels is absolutely the worst experience in the game. I'll be completely frank with you. It takes way too damn long to actually get there. I do understand and do agree that it should take a long time, but even right now, the leveling process to get from level 20 to 40, so I could potentially fuse one of my alluvials, I don't think I've done it yet because it just takes too damn long. I always go for the raw tier 3 catch instead because I can never get my alluvials from 20 to 40, let alone anybody else trying to go from 40 to 60 to make it top of the line competitive for Leviathan. So if there is a mechanic being talked about right now where I can catch, say, if I'm trying to level up a Riley, if I can burn Rye to level up my Riley, I would take that wholeheartedly 100%. I would take that over any sort of stupid little experience booster that you can buy in the shop, or any of your little pay-to-win, like, kind of styles. No, let me take the junk alluvials that I am not going to be using. Let me burn them. Let me burn them. I completely agree. But it would be in regards to experience. If it's for bonus stats, I'm not necessarily opposed to that either. I do understand that maybe finding a perfect alluvial of sorts does get easier, which very well to any of those like marketplace traders would probably hate to see their top of the line alluvials maybe get a little bit less valuable because there's more of them. But I'd argue that it would still be super, super difficult and super, super costly. Oh, Hollow TNT. Let's go. Because the way that it currently stands, there's not enough competitive alluvials out there, right? And optimally, more players end up coming into the game. And optimally, this also is a thing too, if it goes the way that I personally want it, where casual arena play is the free to, casual Illuvium arena. Okay, pause one more time. The way that I would want this for Illuvium arena moving forward into the future, the way that it is right now, where ranked is based off of no stats differences whatsoever, I want that game mode to be casual. So you can play casual, you can set up casual tournaments and whatnot, and you can get the free-to-play, completely balanced, no stats difference aspect in the casual game mode. Not let that be a bot-ridden, like, playtest zone. No, let's casual actually be the mode without any sort of stat differences. Illuvium Arena Ranked should be Leviathan. There should not be Ranked Arena, Ranked Leviathan. No, there should just be Ranked and it's Leviathan. That's how I personally would want to see it. Because this way... Oh, Riley, perfect. Another one. Perfect. The way that I see it this way too, if you need to then set up a casual, not a casual, but if you need to set up a mode where somebody brand new to the game can, a third one, damn, can just hop into a game versus bots and kind of take their own time, that, we can just call it practice mode. Like, you can make a practice mode for that, and that's A-okay. But casual should be arena without stats. Ranked should be what we now know as Leviathan. That's how I see it. And because of that, if Ranked is going to then be Leviathan base, we need to level up our alluvials much, much quicker, much, much easier. So yes, I would then want to burn my alluvials that I do not want for experience for leveling, and potentially to help maybe buff the alluvials that I have that have a little bit of crappier stats, and allow them to become viable in Leviathan. Like, say for example, my hollowed out arcane floor links. I absolutely love that alluvial, but it does not have the greatest stats. If I can take other linkses, or other even arcane floor linkses, if we have to be stupid specific, if we had to be exact, if I can burn arcane floor linkses to make my hollowed out one competitively fit because I love that alluvial and I want to use that alluvial, regardless of how many other alluvials that I have to burn, other alluvials that I have to catch or buy, I would be 100% on board for that. I'd argue even for, like, again, I don't go necessarily into depth about the marketplace conversation because, like, it's just an aspect of the game that I don't necessarily, like, have fun in, to say the least. But I can imagine the difference made because, okay, higher tier or higher level, high stat alluvials will be easier to find. I imagine that'll take your price ceiling for these strong alluvials, bring it down. But this gets counteracted because I think the basic alluvials price, or not the price, but at least the volume of crappier alluvials will then go up. Not the price itself, but just the pure volume of them that you can sell. Like, if I'm trying to level up a hollowed out Exalted Monk here, and I need a massive amount of lesser gorillas to do it, it may only be a couple cents a pop per gorilla. But you need a lot of gorillas. So it kind of balances out in that way. So I would 100% love to see that change. First catch of the day, we're aiming for this hollowed out TNT sitting here in front of me. I've got the Toxic Squad in gear. Quickly take a look at these other stats as well. Honestly, this gorilla's not too bad in regards to its health. Meanwhile, the TNT, you're just gonna be a cosmetic. You're absolutely beautiful. But you're probably getting burned. Like, this is absolutely a scenario. If I loved this TNT so much that I am willing to sacrifice 50, 100 to Tofis to level it up, I would absolutely do so. Or, say from trying to get it from level 20 to level 60. 500 alluvials. I would sacrifice so much. Because the time that I'm spending catching all of these alluvials to sacrifice is still worth something. Buying all of these crappier alluvials to level up the one that I love, that is still worth something. And just because I don't want to slam my head up against the wall doing overworld runs where I'm specifically trying to do battles and catch the alluvials. Like, yes, I can do it that way if I really, really wanted to, and I still do think that that does need to be worked on a little bit. But I love the other option. The stuff that I'm not going to use anyway, let me burn it. The stuff that everybody else is not going to want to use and try to sell onto the market for cheap, let's find a use for those two. On top of the leveling. This TNT just broke out from a 93% chance to catch. This little bugger. So yeah, I will absolutely be honest there. I want to see that in play. But of course, a couple of the other topics that were announced, of course, first off, the Town Hall in itself was announced to be happening on December 18th, which of course is like a little mini Nintendo Direct here, or E3 for us Illuvium fans, where we essentially get to see into the mindset of the developers, of the CEO, to see what is coming up next in the future, and potentially near future here as well. In the announcement post, they were talking about their year in review. MMO teases the risk to earn mechanics potentially joining the squad here as well as a Christmas sale and some other things. As of course we did end up securing the TNT. Next thing I want to snag are the shards in this rock over here, because I am in need of especially higher tier shards. So any chance I can get to scoop some up, I will spend the energy to do that. But I definitely have some honest takes here in regards to the year review. I even have some honest takes in regards to the Illuvium Pro League as well. And of course, anything I say is meant to be absolutely in regards to constructive criticism. There is absolutely no hate to anything that I say. I absolutely love this game, I love this community, and I am very, very happy to see developers working so hard and constantly listening to community feedback. I quickly fall and look for this rock. Where did it go? Am I going to be baited by another rock that happens to be way up on a cliff somewhere? Oh, there it is. Right in the skeleton's mouth. But yeah. Before we get there, I hope that they don't add too much complexity with the burning experience. Burning for experience seems to be desired by everybody, and it looks so simple, and it's likely to come. Yeah, 100%, because there needs to be a use for the stuff that we don't want to use or cannot competitively use. I'm not necessarily 100% sold on giving bonus stats, but at least experience. Like, if we really want to be stingy about fusing and catching alluvials with high stats, I'm willing to be a little bit more stingy about that. Not letting the burning give you like a bonus omega power or something like that. But experience 100% needs to be there. So if that comes soon, I'm going to be very, very happy. Okay, now I'm going to be looking towards the section over here where all the Ryes are, or the Rylees are at. I do need a bunch of these. Alright, and then I have, of course, my list of things to talk about. I have too many tabs. I'm getting lost, not just at Crimson Waste, but I'm getting lost in my own tabs. My goodness. So first and foremost, what I think, and then at least what I imagine will end up being talked about. First off, the arena upgrades made this year, especially since I've started covering Illuvium exclusively, so say from like August, have been absolutely incredible. I'd argue that Illuvium is on par with TFT, if not surpassing it in certain areas, but the biggest hurdle, of course, is its complexity. Just trying to get into it, of course. Heck, even with TFT, it's hard to get into. But Illuvium, especially with the bonding mechanics, does make things a little bit tough to get into, and the support in regards to tutorials are not necessarily 100% there yet, but that's stuff that can be worked on. The upgrades themselves have been absolutely incredible. But in regards to other things for your review, like, let's be honest, Illuvium 0, it's been basically in maintenance mode for the most part this entire year. Yes, we did get a couple of quality of life changes, but like the fuel change at least changed the way I play personally. I used to take my Illuvium 0 plots. The reason I got my Illuvium 0 plots is because I wanted to take the fuel that I earned in-game, upload it to my Illuvium overworld so I can do more catching like this. Technically, I can still do that, but the process is definitely a little bit different. And then all the rest of the changes have been essentially quality of life, which I'm not going to complain about because those are still good, but that's basically it. There's nothing new to do with Illuvium 0. Granted, again, it's the support game, so I definitely understand it is not the mainstay of the Illuvium universe. But landholders, especially with the big hits where they changed the safety net before starting to do revenue distribution, again, that wasn't a big selling point necessarily for myself, but I know many people where that was a huge selling point, and that hurt them a lot. And knowing that it has changed, okay, this guy's going to the gulag. Knowing that change ended up happening, I understand why. Like, at the end of the day, yes, I want to have a strong runway and a strong safety net. But for anybody right here, right now, this year here in 2025 for Illuvium 0, it sucks, to say the least, for you. I definitely can understand why people aren't necessarily the biggest fan about that. I do look forward to more utility. I know I bring it up basically every stream, but God forbid the day that the training gyms become a thing, and that's another option that I can potentially level up my Illuvials, or even better, if somehow through Illuvium 0 can I upgrade my Illuvium or my Illuvial stats there potentially, I'm going to become a daycare. I will fill my plots with training gyms, 100%. Yeah, so 0 is a little bit, like, kind of left in the dust, but again, kind of understandably so. Overworld, at least since my time, for really heavily focusing on it since August, feels like it's also been kind of a maintenance mode. Nothing really new here because it's all focused on the MMO, right? So it's this thing. Like, it hasn't necessarily been the most exciting and fun year for Zero, for Overworld, for example. And that does hurt, but it's been because of something else getting promoted or something else being upgraded. It's like, I can't, like, truly be angry. It's not like they pulled an Overwatch where they stopped making Overwatch content for years, saying, well, guess what? We're going to be getting this brand new single-player storyline mode with Overwatch 2, and we're going to be doing this, and that. We're making these kind of promises. And then Overwatch 2 comes out. Actually, guys, we're not going to be putting in the story mode anymore. Actually, all Overwatch 2 is just a shop upgrade with maybe some better graphics. If it ended up being a situation like that, I've been through that once already. I would lose my if it happened again for a game that I love. So, like, I can't be, like, too upset. It's like, yes, it's not exciting, but I know they're not screwing with me, if that makes sense. What do I feel about infinite level scaling? Could go up to 70 and maybe even beyond, but it would take plenty more time. That's when we actually have to start worrying heavily about pay to win, though, right? Like, if I truly wanted to whale out, and say my Rip Lance, for example. If I wanted to whale out on my Rip Lance and just have an because what this introduces here, infinite level scaling introduces something additional. As I see my green screen starting to snow on me here. Bear with me a second. Yeah, so infinite level scaling to me says infinite spending. Which does, of course, scare me a little bit, but also make me happy in another regard. Because if there's an infinite level where it takes like 10 times more time to go from, say, level 60 to 70, what this does introduce is whales potentially coming on in and destroying the competitive viability of the arena because they have, say, level 100 alluvials because they spent tens of thousands of dollars on an alluvial. And then if they, God forbid, have a team full of alluvials like that, there's no stopping them. All competitive integrity, I would argue, would be ruined, especially if it's going to be the ranked mode, because there is a direct... Holy shit, this Riley actually ended up being really, really good. I didn't even check its stats. Let's go, Riley. But, it introduced infinite spending, which does scare me in terms of the competitive integrity side of things. However, you wanted to get revenues? There's a reason Rise of Kingdoms still exists. And there's a reason why everybody has been trying to make games copying Rise of Kingdoms. Because There's nothing more satisfying than hopping into a battle that truly means something, being able to whip it out, and mine's bigger than yours, and I'm going to get all the rewards. So competitively, for things like Illuvium Pro League, if Illuvium Pro League were to then go Leviathan, it's 100% a pay-to-win game now. And as a competitor, I hate it. As somebody who wants to see the game thrive, I don't mind it as much, and I honestly understand if they would go down that route. So optimally, I would like there to be a level cap. But I don't mind the level cap being high, so that getting yourself a team, like if you wanted to specifically buy your team and make it competitively fit, that it costs a lot to do. But again, I also understand if you have infinite levels, there's infinite spending, you never truly have a maxed out team, which is going to just introduce more infinite spending. Which for the game, that sounds fantastic. For the average everyday player, though, it is atrocious. But there's, again, reason why games like Rise of Kingdoms exist. People still play that game free to play, knowing that they are at an absolute disaster disadvantage. But what then ends up happening? You want to work with that player. You want to team up with that player. You want that player to mentor you. You get a bit of a community aspect for it. So I never ever thought that I would actually think this way, but I would actually be for infinite leveling. Because that's just it with all these games, with these strategy games, your Rise of Kingdoms is kind of games. They run basically off of 0.5% of their player base, right? Hundreds and thousands of millions of people play those games, but they're probably only truly being funded by a couple thousand of those players. And as much as it hurts, in fact, it hurts a lot, but I would understand Illuvium going that way. Here's my counteract, though. If we do this, where Leviathan is the new standard ranked, if IPL is Leviathan, we also need multiple one-off tournaments, in my opinion, in the casual mode. It doesn't get the whole spotlight, it doesn't get a league. But let's get a bunch of one-offs, say like a monthly tournament, where we have it's strictly casual, so anybody could pick up the game, learn it, and perform and execute and be able to compete on a fair playing field. We need more of that. We need something like that if we go this route, to still have those casual players. It's like, okay, I get that I'm probably going to get my ass kicked to me in ranked. I understand that I'm probably not going to be competitive in the Illuvium Pro League. But this tournament is coming up this weekend. I can train for this, and I still have a fair chance at winning. That, to me, would be an amazing way to kind of wrap it all together. There are a lot of people that, like, once I know that there is a major competitive advantage for people who just whip their credit card out and, like, can beat me, there is a lot of players that would 100% turn off the game. Especially if they're coming from Teamfight Tactics, for example. They're going to come in and try and learn a game that's much, much more complicated, and you're at a distinct disadvantage right off the rip. it's going to take a lot of convincing for a lot of players to actually stay there. But if there is casual-based tournaments or events where, say, hey, this week in Illuvium, casual becomes the ranked game mode for the week, with a certain, like, small, but something that you can fight for, with a small prize pool. It could even just be fuel, because it can just be fuel. That's fine. It doesn't necessarily need to be, like, raw, like, cash or crypto, just in-game fuel. But hey, this week in Illuvium, casual becomes the ranked game mode. At the end of the week, have your shot at, say, about $1,000 worth of fuel. It's a fair playing field. What do you have what it takes when the scales balance, kind of thing? Something like that. You can make events. You can absolutely make events to keep the free-to-play players engaged. That way, when it's normal, like, yes, they're probably going to get their ass whooped really badly by pay-to-win, but there's still reason to keep practicing. There's still reason to go into Overworld, MMO, to keep making your collection. It can keep them hooked for when those events come around, and if they happen often enough, I think we can have a stupidly pay-to-win version of Illuvium Arena, while also being able to cater to casuals at least a little bit to keep it interesting. I argue no, we don't target TFT anymore. What I would target... Let me just find my next target that I'm going to fly over to here in a second before I start yapping again. Got an Exalted app on over here. Alright, cool. Are we targeting TFT players? I assume if we go Leviathan over, the arena becomes the bonus game, yes. Just another way to use your collection's power, but not a separate game anymore. Yeah, 100%. What we need to be targeting once Overworld / the MMO is out, Arena becomes the secondary game. It becomes the bonus, but it still needs careful care. Very similar to how League of Legends is the main game, but TFT is the extra. People are there for the MOBA, but they'll play the arena as extra because they like the characters and they like the gameplay. What we need to be, in my opinion, all of those disgruntled Pokemon players out there that are sick of every single game that comes out being brand new, being cash money exploitive, while looking like something that could have been played on the N64 or PS2 at best, graphically. People like me who've grown up playing Pokemon and are absolutely sick of the rinse and repeat products that we've been getting over and over again for years. There's a reason why I'm here for Illuvium. I am that player. I love the aspect of creature capture. I love the idea of going out into the overworld, catching my creatures and then battling with them. I love the aspect of all of that, plus being able to take my creatures that I caught and bring them into the arena. I love that my land plot can supply me support to go do more of that. Buff it, make it better. We need to focus casual Pokemon players, basically. And there are tons of that. Way more than TFT, way more than League of Legends, way more than Valorant, way more than any other top-level game out there. Pokemon, in this instance, is king, and they are under-delivering badly right here, right now. There is no better time to capitalize on it. I've purchased basically every single Pokemon game since X and Y, years and years ago. And I've played it since Red was released. I am sick of the product. but I'm also heartsick. I have my collection of Pokemon in my Pokemon home. I would love to be able to do something with it, and I cannot. Illuvium and the Overworld Arena Zero tie-in has the potential to fill that void that I'm looking for. And I feel like there's many more people out there like me. Millions of people out there like me. That is who we should be targeting. Overworld, or the MMO, is going to be the main focus. 100%. But Arena can thrive with the success of the MMO. Just like how League of Legends continues to thrive, or rather TFT continues to thrive as well thanks to the success of League of Legends. But even League of Legends is in a bit of a lull right now. The potential is there. And that's why, like, I'm so damn invested into this. Not financially, emotionally. I want this to be the Pokemon game that I wish that I would have had years ago. How long have we been begging Game Freak or Nintendo to make an MMO based around Pokemon? Decades! And they refuse to do it. Just rinse and repeat. Boring. Very minimal in regards to stories. It's just the same old rinse and repeat crap. The only thing that they've made over the last 10 years that I think has been absolutely fantastic is Pokemon Legends Arceus. Arceus is a phenomenal game, and it is a nice standalone. Storyline-wise, battle-wise, like, it is a phenomenal game. But that is the only thing that I've liked from Pokemon, for example, in the last decade. Like, I am happy that, like, I think Pokemon Champions, like, a dedicated battle arena for Pokemon is coming out, because they desperately needed something where they can have their competitive game not be tied in with the latest main story game, for example. That part does excite me, and some of my favorite time casting esports is when I casted Pokemon. And being there with Champions would be absolutely, like, phenomenal. But, again, Illuvium has the opportunity to be all of that and more. A couple of the other things that we did, of course, have in the year in review, at least from my notes here. So, again, I'm not a crypto guy. Far from it. Every single time I have to make a crypto transaction, I need a change of pants because I don't know what the f I'm doing. I'm scared. I've lost money. I've had money held from me before trying to make crypto transactions. And it still scares me to this very, very day. So I try not to actually talk about it too much. I try not to talk about it really at all. But of course, one of the big things that did come out this year is Staking version 3. I'll talk about that in just a second. Quick pause. I don't know about all of you, but I'm enjoying just talking about Illuvium as a whole right here. I kind of want to keep my competitive mindset turned off right now. So I'm debating on just going for another overworld run while I continue to talk to you guys. If I happen to be going into Illuvium Arena, I'm going to end up tryharding a little bit. I'd still be talking, but I wouldn't be as available. So I think I'm actually going to do another overworld run instead of going into the arena here today. At least one more. Maybe we'll sneak in one at the very, very end. But staking V3. So one thing that kind of irks me still right here, right now. So the ILV token that I did get from working with Illuvium, I took all of it and staked it. And I'll be completely upfront with that. Because I want to see where this goes. But it's like, I invested my time into Illuvium. They gave me thanks by paying me an ILV. And I personally am going to set it aside, not threaten to sell any of it, because I want to see this succeed. I am completely of the mindset that I could lose it all. 100%. But I'm okay with that because of what this community and what Illuvium themselves has provided for me in terms of enjoyment, in terms of being able to do stuff like I'm doing here today. And I do not wish to pull out and run away. One thing that pisses me off, though, the fact that staking V3 went live with the use of shards not being known, I think is criminal. Because we don't know what we're getting. And, like, I probably would have... Oh, holy shit, Exalted Apon Hollow? I definitely gotta take a look at that. But the fact that staking V3 went live, and we do not know the use for it, I think is genuinely criminal. Because that can be completely changed. It could be a paperweight, for all we know. And we don't know what we're getting. But I know the shards or whatever was a big selling point for a lot of people to get invested and to stake in the first place. So it's like, hey, I'm giving you my money, and I don't know what you're going to give me back. It's a very scary promise. I guess it's kind of harsh for me to call it criminal, but it is very, very off-putting. It's uncomfortable. If there was nothing in regards to shards, and they would have just like promoted their next level of staking, like not announcing anything of that, I probably still would have. I probably would still stake. Because again, I love the game. I love what this game has been able to give me in terms of my community. And in part of being with this Illuvium community, that to me is worth it. And then by me staking, if this helps the community, helps the token, and helps all of that for a long-term thing, helps their future out a little bit, I am willing to do that. But the selling point of shards, while not knowing what the shards actually do, I think is kind of messed up. And you're in the same boat as me, Sota. Like, I probably would just have this... Again, I would either have it staked or I'd have it sitting around anyway. So sure, let's let it collect something. But shards was a big part of the selling point, at least to me, or at least to, I feel like, a lot of the community. So the fact that we have absolutely no idea what it does is a little weird to me. So, I definitely am very eager to see what these shards actually become. And I definitely hope, like, if it ends up becoming an absolute nothing burger, I'm going to be disappointed, but I'm not going to be furious. But I know a lot of people who will be. And I just hope that it lives up to the expectations of everybody. So that was definitely a little bit weird. But not the end of the world, per se. Then, of course, the Illuvium Pro League itself is a topic I imagine that they will talk about. And here's the thing. First and foremost, I absolutely love the Illuvium Pro League. And I'm extremely thankful that I've been able to get myself into the position where they essentially wanted me on all the time in terms of commentating it. Like, I'm glad that Illuvium Pro League went out. I know Kieran, Rich, and I think Folky was, I can't remember exactly, but they kind of took the reins for themselves in that first one. And it was chill, it was cool and all, but it didn't necessarily, like, come off as a true esports broadcast, if that makes any sense. That's no shot to them, it's just they're trying to take it themselves. And they realized real quick that they needed to swap things up a little bit, and then Paz, I believe, became the main producer and main, like, tournament organizer there for the Illuvium Pro League. And all things considered, like, we got the team together, or he got the team together, included me here with it. And I'd argue everything went pretty well. But what I can imagine... Let's see here. First, there's this point they want to say it, or... And that's a problem, right? Like, we don't know if the shards are something that are nice to have, but not the end of the world, or if it's something I want a ton of. It does make me feel a little bit better that the CEO themselves want them, but it can be... It's just a little odd. Especially when we're so focused on transparency, and Illuvium for 99% of the time are very, very good with transparency. The fact is, this is the one thing we don't know, and it's a thing that a lot of people are investing in, is just unfortunate, to say the least. But again, the Illuvium Pro League there, it's great. I feel like it went very, very well. But in terms of financially, I would be very, very surprised if the Illuvium Pro League did what they were hoping that it was going to do. Because yes, we did see an uptick in new players, but I don't think anywhere near the extent that they were hoping. And especially with the World Finals in particular, where there was $150,000 given out for the finals, given the amount of players that this league acquired, I'd argue a $50,000 prize pool for the finals probably would have given you the same results. And I imagine that the investors for Illuvium are not necessarily too happy with the Pro League being a thing. Even though, like, this is huge for Illuvium, I'd argue it's huge for Web3 gaming as a whole as well, where an esports can be done properly and professionally in the Web3 gaming space. But does an investor actually give a shit about that? No, I do not think so. So I personally think that we are never going to see an IPL have anywhere near as high as a prize pool again in the very, like, near future. I would be very, very surprised to see an IPL period in the very, like, near, slightly distant future. And it is a little bit heartbreaking, but that unfortunately turns, okay, you're actually not too bad, Exalted App-On. Let's go. I'm going to try and immediately tier 2 shard that. As someone who, like, comes from esports, like, I want to see more esports, and I do think, especially if the Leviathan turn for an IPL, for example, becomes a thing, that is an absolute green flag to start, like, getting people spending, so to speak, because they're going to want their best possible compositions, as we have this Exalted App-On. Look at this beauty right here. I hate that it has move speed. This thing doesn't necessarily move at all, but decent attack speed, decent Omega power. a little bit into its attack damage, a little bit into its resistances. All hollowed out, though. I absolutely love this thing. Let's go. Nice find. I just hope there will be a few Leviathan tournaments in the next 6 months. Like, yeah, I can imagine finding one-offs. Keeping the competitive scene alive in the near future with, like, some one-off tournaments. But I highly doubt that we're going to see a full league like this again in the very, very near future. Until, some of these other systems are in place to help provide revenues. Because I imagine that this first season of the Illuvium Pro League is a huge blemish on the pocketbooks. And investors are probably not too happy about that. And I would not be surprised if, while all this MMO stuff happening as well, like, we just see a little bit of a cooling off period here, so to speak. Like, to be completely upfront and honest, for example, all of the Illuvium Pro League clips you see, and a good majority of the clips that you see posted on X right now, it's because I was basically hired on to find these clips and to make these clips. So, like, I wasn't internal with Illuvium, but I was supporting them in a sense, and they would support me as well in that sense. I got laid off this week. And I would not be very, very surprised if it happens to more people. Because I don't want to blame it purely on IPL, but investors are picky, right? So I imagine there's just not maybe as much of a, or maybe too much of a loss. So I do worry a little bit. Again, I was just extra. I wasn't actually on the Illuvium team or anything like that. But if it happened to me, I wonder what else is being cooked on. And whether that turns into a slowdown of social media and just, like, focusing on a core team, on development, stay quiet a little bit until you have stuff to promote. I get it, and I'm not upset. Like, don't get me wrong. I get it. But I just want to, like, make it known, like, that was thing. I was doing clips for the Illuvium social medias, and I was let go or not temporarily, but I was let go. And that's just it. It makes sense from a business perspective, so I'm not angry. But it is something that's happened. And of course, that's just me. I can't speak for anybody else. I don't know the situation, especially on any sort of the actual Illuvium team themselves. I just know what happened to me, and all I can say is I have a little bit more time to do my own video editing now, so to speak. But I do have to find a way to make up for the lost funding. Blura, hello there. Let's lock you down. There we go. Yeah, so with that, I would be very, very surprised if Illuvium Pro League makes a return anytime soon, and maybe just the return of having these weekend tournaments, or maybe similar to what we saw with the OLA collab with Illuvium, where it was like a month of tournaments leading to a final championship. I can see that happening more often, and making a little bit more sense. Potentially. What else was on this list here? So the MMO teases, of course, everybody's excited for the MMO. They were talking about the playtest as well. A private playtest is what I think Rich put in the announcement. So unfortunate. So with it being private, I imagine it's going to be a rather closed list. I know I personally have reached out to try and get onto the list, but I'm not sure where I stand with that. But I would imagine I would not be able to stream it at all, so to speak. But I would still love the opportunity. And that's just it. You're in the same boat as me here, Sota. Yeah, exactly. Even if, like, all of my, like, assets went to zero, even if I were to get out of it, I want to see this emotionally succeed. And 100%. Compared to all this other Web3 trash games that I see out here, there's only 2 that I've actually picked up and enjoyed. A lot of it personally is because I cannot stand the fact that majority of people in this Web3 gaming space are completely okay playing a game that looks worse than RuneScape, old school RuneScape, and calling it a great game because you have potential to earn. That mindset absolutely boggles me. Personally, I have to like what I'm looking at, and I have to like the gameplay, and a lot of these games are just absolute trash. But people will swear by it because you have earning potential. And I cannot stand that in the slightest. Meanwhile, here with Illuvium, I do think they probably have the best chance to kind of be a standout. And I'm not going to say that I'm good for finding these things, because, like, say, for example, I'm really young me, way long ago. StarCraft 2 comes out, I see, like, commentators, I see professionals, I see, like, my first true glimpse of esports. I dedicated myself to understanding esports. Everybody called me stupid. Esports is now a, like, relatively mainstream thing. Lots of people know about it now. It's gotten relatively big. All things considered. Obviously not to the level of traditional sports, but that's okay. It's a standalone thing. It's a valid thing. As a part of me learning about esports, I then had the opportunity to work in college, or to take part in college esports, helping legitimize collegiate esports. I again was called extremely stupid. That this can't be a valuable career path. How can you possibly support yourself working with these kids that are playing video games? I thankfully had the opportunity to be a full-time, support my family through college esports broadcasting for about 7 years. Unfortunately, that opportunity did end up wearing out its welcome. But I was called stupid, but I did it. I am probably called stupid a ton, and I've seen the comments I get on some of my posts. Oh, this is a crypto game. This guy's a fucking scammer. This game's not going anywhere. Is this one of those fake games that they make in the movies? Oh, like, you could be so much bigger supporting your family if you just did something different, a different topic. You're stupid. All I'll say is this. Between esports and college esports, I've proved these people wrong twice. I'm ready to do it a third, here with Illuvium being viable. DiCaprico, hello! Welcome. It's just a lot of overworld today because it's basically just been... Excuse me, sorry. It's basically just been story time with Silent here today. But again, I've been called stupid twice for two things that people said would not be valid career opportunities. I've proved them wrong twice. I'm ready to do it a third. I'm all in on Illuvium. Is it stupid right now? You can argue. Like, I've been doing content consistently. I've been doing content consistently here for Illuvium for about, since August. So almost half a year now. And I know, say my YouTube, for example, is about like 77, 78 subscribers. And in most scenarios, like, people are calling me a failure for that. Like, oh, you spent a half a year doing this when you could be doing something else. And people will call me a failure for that. And it is difficult. And 100%, Web3's reputation right now definitely hurts. But what reputation also hurt a ton? Esports in general. I had my own uncle say, you realize that your dumbass is just giving an outlet and supporting school shooters and serial killers. My own family, for the longest time, especially my direct family, like, say, my actual parents, they were supportive to an extent, but even still here, when I was doing casting with Illuvium and doing social media posts and basically being full-time, they were still giving me job applications to, like, Home Depot because they just don't trust what I'm doing, even when I was working in esports. So esports has a bad rap, but you can make a career out of it, 100%. Web3 has a bad rap, but we can, and we will try to make a career out of it. And I know personally, I'll absolutely do this the longest that I possibly can. I imagine there could be a world where eventually my situation changes and I need to actually tackle something again, a little more traditional, a little bit more full-time. But my work here will not stop. It may slow down a ton, but I will not let it stop. We're going to keep on trying to do this thing. %. Most people just expect to earn the salary and do as little or nothing as possible to truly get that done. Heck, we see it in the world as a whole right now, right? How much more difficult has it been? Businesses have gotten so lean that it's no longer, oh, we thank the customer for choosing us to shop here or to come here. We value you so much and we appreciate you greatly. Now it's, okay, how little employees, how little can I actually work with the customer, and how little do I have to invest for them to continue to come to me? Customer service is terrible. I know, like, fast food, for example, is not fast anymore. It's all just a slimmed down numbers game. And gamers will refuse to try out a game just because it's crypto. 100%. There is a reason why, like, even a video I have coming up where I'm going to be explaining everything about Illuvium and its universe. I do not drop the word crypto or NFT once in that video, because those are two buzzwords that are associated with scamming. I use Web3, and then I use alluvials, or I'll say assets, for example. Because what this is, it's a creature capturing game that can also be used in other games. That's literally as basic as I explain it. Because yeah, as soon as I say crypto, as soon as I say NFT, if I say blockchain or any sort of word like that, I'm losing people. 100%. just because the stigma is there. They assume it's a scam, and I kind of get it because that's what's always in the media, right? So, it's a touchy slope to have to climb. But I can see a world where a game like this can thrive, where the technology itself can thrive. Hopefully it'll be within my lifetime. Hopefully. Yeah, the word NFT needs to be disappeared, because when I say NFT, I think of a stupid little monkey picture that somebody probably spent way too much money on, and the scams associated with that. As a casual person that doesn't understand the wide use of that acronym, that's exactly where their mind goes. Do one more overworld run here before we hop into our Illuvium Zero cooldown lap. The only other thing really to note from the announcement that Rich did in the Illuvium Discord was in regards to risk to earn mechanics. This I am also very, very interested into what it actually implies. As somebody in esports, for example, for the longest time, is that going to be my second Dark Hollow monk gear? Damn. Alright, we'll take that. But as someone who's been involved in doing like TO work for esports for a very, very long time, I've run hundreds of my own events, hundreds of my own tournaments. One thing that I did see pretty consistently, like say when I'm doing fighting game tournaments, for example, once the tournament is over, once somebody got knocked out of a tournament or something, like they would have these money matches where it'd be a one-on-one, put $1 on the table or whatever, and take a chance at a match together. I'm curious if it'll be something along those lines, where maybe... let's go for that first. Like, is it, say, going to still be an 8-player game, but there's like an ante system, like, say, a poker table would do? Or do you go down what I would argue the dangerous option would be, and are we starting to talk about pink slips? And those who may not understand, like, pink slips is when you do a drag race one-on-one with 2 people in cars. And then the winner gets ownership of the loser's car. What kind of risk to earn are we talking about here? Because personally, I like an ante-in kind of system. It also really helps for maybe these one-off tournaments that come on out here. Like, okay, here, chip in $5 for your chance at this prize pool or something along those lines. And I'm curious, because then you could just have, like, constant, like, money matches. I imagine, like, some of the top-level players would probably just... They'd play ranked to maybe keep themselves on the ranked leaderboard, but if they have the opportunity, once they're sitting up there and they're in the money, they'd probably spend most of their time doing money matches. That I wouldn't have a problem with. I'd be a little bit worried if we're starting to actually... risk ownership of alluvials. It's probably going to be something that I hardly ever, if not ever, touch. Unless it's in regards to like an ante for a tournament. But I'm still interested to see where it goes. 100%. Okay, one more Riley to grind on out here. Look at this guy here. It's a glass cannon, but I mean, that is pretty close to perfect. Health, attack speed, attack damage, nearly loaded up on Omega Power as well. If it only had resistances, but at least its resistances are not 0. Absolutely want to snag this thing. And that's what I worry about. The risk to earn sounds fun, but at the end of the day, the two thing... Well, an entry fee is just an entry fee for a tournament kind of thing. Money matches is technically gambling. Pink slips with alluvials is technically gambling. So I do worry about what kind of method that they do end up going for. But there we go, that Riley successfully captured. Do we know if they're working on it? I would imagine so, because based off of the announcement that Rich put in the Illuvium Discord, they said what we'll be covering at the town hall is a new risk to earn minigame. So something's cooking. As to what exactly, is it even the arena at all? I have no idea. So that ride was an absolute fantastic pickup. Probably the best one that I own now here so far. Next thing on the docket is going to be going on over to this Dark Hollow Lesser Monk here. Just up on the cliff's edge here. A little bit of a freeze, but we're good. I was going to say, don't freeze on me right in front of the Dark Hollow. I swear to God. But okay, now we're good. I don't think that's for arena. Like, yeah, I'm talking about it in the sense of maybe it was for arena, but it doesn't mean it doesn't, or it has to be. It very well could be tied into something else. Okay, let's take a look and see what we got here. Dark Hollow Monk here, ready to rock. Try and take out this Lesser Gorilla nice and quick. This has been the tried and true squad here. I haven't had to really deviate at all from using this team. So far, so good there. We'll check out the stats in 1 second once we take them down. Let's take a look at the other ones real quick. Honestly, some pretty decent damage here on this Greater Gorilla, but I'm probably still going to pass up on it. This Lesser Monk here, a little lack to be desired, but at the same time, I'm not going to pass up on a Dark Hollow. It's just too damn pretty. Trying to think of what you just said there, Soda, and I just got a headache thinking about it, so apologies, I'm not necessarily 100% sure about that one. Never know, though. But here we go, our second Dark Hollow Lesser Monk here. Again, stacks are a little lackluster, but still very, very happy to be able to snag that one. Do I want? No, my Gorilla's better, so I'm going to just pass this one. One thing that's actually kind of fun, I technically get my first collab happening tomorrow. I'll be hopping on somebody else's stream that's not Illuvium's. Looking forward to talking to somebody who, for the longest time anyway, had essentially the polar opposite mindset of myself in terms of Web3 gaming as a whole, but has definitely had a bit of a character development arc, if I were to say so myself. And just because we have differing opinions does not necessarily mean that I dislike the individual, not at all. In fact, I'm very, very, very much looking forward to talking and working with them tomorrow. I don't think it's been actually announced by them yet, so I'm not going to say anything in particular, but all I gotta say is here in the Illuvium content creator community, there isn't necessarily too many of us, so you don't have to actually think too hard, I don't think, if you know what I'm saying. It'll be a fun time tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we'll be doing that. Hello, beautiful. Come on back, please. Wrap up this overworld run, hop into Illuvium 0. Then we'll be calling it a night, or calling it a day. Still got a little bit of time, though. Not that suit, no. Just do the tried and true. Floor link's not necessarily super strong by any means, but that's alright. Oddly enough, I don't think I've actually heard of Nijef, so no, it wouldn't have been Nijef. I gotta start looking into them, though. Oh, that's just it. I was looking at my notes. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to the IPL. As we try to lock in on this Stoic Floor Links, I do have one already. But eventually, when I can actually make a skin out of Lynxes, I want to be able to do so. So that's why I'm going to catch it, even though its stats are a little lack to be desired. You're gonna break out on me, are you? Stubborn little Lynx. Let's try this again, why don't we? Yeah, so the IPL, one more time here. So again, as much as I loved the IPL, I can imagine on the business side of things, on the record books, as we do manage to snag this Stoic Floor Links. Again, gonna be used more so for skins, but at least in the meantime, it's got some nice health. But business-wise, the IPL wouldn't have necessarily made sense. So, one thing that also had me very, very curious. I imagined having the big prize pool for the Illuvium Pro League, for example. As much as it's a reward for everybody that was in the community, I imagine it was also here to try and pull in professionals from other games. I know TFT is the obvious one, but just esports pros in general. And based off the interviews that we did hear from, like with Narkesh, like a lot of these pros and say our direct competitor or the direct competitor TFT, like you're getting $7,000 or whatever for a tournament from that, and we're giving first place 50K. That was 100%, I imagine, to grab pros. But did you notice how there was a bit of a missed opportunity there? Do you remember that there were supposed to be 4 wildcard spots for pros going into the World Final? And notice how there ended up being no pros whatsoever? I think the only time that I heard anything about wildcard even being brought up was in regards to, I think Paz made a post like the week before. If there's one thing that I've learned with just running so many esports events, oddly enough, when it comes to esports players and gamers as a whole, money does get their attention, but it does not actually keep their attention, so to speak. Oddly enough, it seems like gamers just don't like change. And I'm just so surprised that not a single pro came out for the wildcard. And all that big money that was supposed to be used to entice a pro and bring their audience, for the business or for us, fortunately, went to our Illuvium community. But in terms of the business sense, it didn't get it on anybody else's extra radars. We didn't have any pros really helping promote it. So we basically just gave a $150,000 gift to the community that was already playing the game. I don't know what the heck happened in regards to the wildcard side of things. And I imagine they're kicking themselves a little bit. Yeah, do you want $300 for free? And knowing some of these players, I kind of understand why they would not. Because again, Web3 gets the stigma. I have seen, because of course I've been clipping for Illuvium for quite a while in terms of their social media posts, so I'm looking on Solinome, for example, to see who's been playing Illuvium. And then when I see a new face on there, I go to take a look and see if it happens to be a promoted stream or not. And when it is a promoted stream, like I've seen people who've primarily played like Teamfight Tactics or other games, then play another, or then play Illuvium Arena. Literally half of the time, 3/4 of the time in the stream, it's them defending themselves for taking a sponsor from a Web3 NFT game. Heck, the reason I, again, got into Illuvium is because there was an ad on an MNJ TV Plays Pokemon video. It's a very prominent Pokemon YouTuber. And they made the video. They had to take the video down like a week later and put out an apology to the community for promoting a game that had NFTs and crypto. That's how freaking bad it is. And is that worth $300? Not a chance. Not a chance at all. So I don't actually blame the pros here. And the fact that they weren't reached out to until what seems like a week prior to the World Finals, there is no way that a pro player or a streamer or anybody can pick up a game, try to learn it, try to stream it within a week without looking like they're selling out. So I do not blame any pro for not taking the last minute wildcard deal. And that's heartbreaking because that was a huge missed opportunity. I know the prize money was there with that intent to get them to try it. And it didn't happen. So the fact that it happened so late is mind-boggling. Another thing that I was definitely frustrated with here as well is as the Illuvium Pro League is happening, one thing that you would commonly see in other esports leagues, a common thing that you see in sports in general, when the league is happening, when a match is happening, you have somebody who's clipping and highlighting and posting moments on social media as the tournament is happening to tell the story and to entice more people to come watch. That happened not at all throughout the entire IPL. While the IPL stream was going, there was never any highlights. But there's a reason for this. The time zone problem, right? It's beautiful that we're a worldwide game, but all of the leadership, right, are all on the East. So when we're starting the league and we're playing in the league in the morning in my time, they're probably passed out, right? And then I know the social media intern themselves are way, way out in the East. They're knocked out. It's not happening. So there was nobody who could actually watch the stream, clip highlights, and build a story to entice more people to come in. There are so many moments that we could have had, like, oh, like so-and-so takes this lobby, setting themselves up for checkmate. Like, Slicks is the first one to checkmate here. Can they win in the next game? Tune in and find out. Little things like that draw in people back in. There's people that are interested, but they're not going to usually sit in for an esports stream from start to finish. 99% of the time, you kind of let the start go by and you tune in when the important stuff starts happening. It's just how the world is right now, with our attention spans and so many things fighting for our attention. So I can't blame Illuvium, given the staff that they had, because again, they're passed out. I don't expect the social media intern to be awake at 2 in the morning for a start of the tournament, not being done until like 6 in the morning, and then having to maybe do another job while also being a dad. I do not expect them to do that in the slightest. That is incredibly painful. So they would have needed to hire a clipper. They would have needed to hire on another social media person in this instance here to truly do it, which again would have cost up more budget. And they do have a clipper, but the problem, the clipper was also the caster. So it just could not quite work. There's just not enough bandwidth there, and unfortunately, it does cause for some of the viewership numbers to be lower than they possibly could have been. It felt like maybe the league wasn't as cared about as much, even though I know they care about it. But it's just due to factors that weren't necessarily something they could play around. So again, I respect the hell out of Illuvium for having the league, but unfortunately, just the resources were not quite there to truly maximize on it, so to speak. In regards to the Illuvium Zero plots here today, so I have majority of my plots now, have all 5 scanners running at level 4. I am trying to complete my tier 4 set of biodata. I am not too far away from doing so. I believe I need only 3 more. I'm gonna quickly take a peek here at my spreadsheet to confirm who I still need. I need Umber, I need Blasonite, and I need Seer. Any one of those popping on through would be an absolute W. As the music changes and nearly exposes my emo playlist, let's not do that. Let's get back in the swing of things here. Let's see if we can score ourselves some tier 4 biodata. And of course, the Kuka is going to come troll me. I did have to delete the Kuka to get additional biodata space, but I did make an emergency data bank last night. So I now have storage for at least another 4 more. Let's try these other 2. Scanner number 3, Goliant. It's the second time I've gotten Goliant, but I'm happy to have it nonetheless. Just means I'll get those blueprints that much quicker once I start researching it. And the other ones are going to be duds, but what about our materials labs? I am looking for suit and skin combos. See if we can lock one down here. Appon, we're going to get a fact, but not any blueprint. Greater Gorilla is going to give me the suit blueprint. There we go. Let's hop on over to the sheet. Flashbang warning. Move us on over just a touch as I proceed to start snowing a little bit, apparently. So the Greater Monkeer. That, I have the Neuroplate. As we lock that one in, we can also lock in over here on the right-hand side the Greater Monkeer suit combo complete. Or no, not Monkeer, this is Gorilla. My mistake, let's try that again. Greater Gorilla. It's not a combo complete, but we've at least got the suit now. There we go. Okay, we can cancel off that one. Greater Gorilla looking for the drone here as well. Not going to find it this time. How about Cardiolox? We're going to find a fact for it, but that's it. No other blueprints this time. Bye. Off to Abyssal Basin. I've got a bunch of passive fuel that I absolutely need to collect. My emergency data bank is finished here as well. Similar scenario, I was running low. Glad that's finished. And my final scanner is finished. We'll send that one off. We've got 4 scanners, and I believe 5 research labs going here at this one. Rylu, I needed your drone, not gonna find it. First scan, not gonna be here. Gyro, I need blueprints for either or, not gonna find. Scanners are all going to be duds here today. Tibiruko and Monkey are all going to be duds. So, unfortunate, not gonna find it this time. Scoop up my resources real quick and move on to the next one. Good enough, we'll call it right there. Off to Shard Bluff. My final scanner is ready on this plot, so let's get that one underway. Grab our fuel and resources. I don't need the emergency data bank here for this plot yet, so I'm still good for a little while longer. Yep, I'm just in my cooldown lap. I'll be there shortly. Within 10. Hey, that works. Yeah, poor little guy. My youngest here today has his final molars coming on through. And with that, the cold and the fever that's happening at the same time. Definitely having a little bit of a hard day today, but what he is doing at least is enjoying plenty of Freezy and popsicles. So, thankfully, my wife holding the fort. I'll definitely go help out in just a couple moments. Scanners! Let's take a look and see what we got here. All lined up. All gonna be duds here today, unfortunately. And I don't have research labs going just yet, so I'll have to move on. Taiga Boreal. Again, my worst design plot, if I do say so myself. I was experimenting with mass converters, but just upgrading every single converter, it takes way too much fuel, I think, to actually be worth it. So that'll be getting fixed up in the very, very near future. Unfortunately, not all of my scanners are actually complete. I'm just about a half hour away from getting that complete. But I do not have the time to be able to get there, unfortunately. So we've got the one scanner and we've got research. Let's see. Scanner's not going to provide me anything this time. Exalted Gorilla Effect. But that looks like to be it. Is that all I have in regards to research? No, there's these 2 down here. All going to end up being duds, it looks like. Brightland Steps, next one. This one is just a fuel-based plot here for me here in the Tier 3 areas. All I'm doing currently is just trying to upgrade my converters to get the maximum of the passive fuel I can get every single day. Absolutely, Zico Perico, thank you for tuning in. And absolutely, hopefully a tournament soon. I'll see you there. Scoop up my resources as per usual. Did I collect everything? I think I did. Just gotta load up on a little bit more of the hydrogen, but that's okay. I don't have anything... Or I still have to wait, rather, for another 11 hours or so. So I should be able to keep up. Then, of course, this Brightland Steps is still eluding me. I'm still waiting for one more research lab to actually be getting me the first biodata, or not biodata, first blueprint from this plot. Definitely been getting unlucky over the last month or so with this one. And this Crimson Waste plot, this one is almost completely established to where I would want it. next thing to build is an upgrade on this extractor. We'll absolutely get that started. I think if I saw that correctly, I need more power, so let's get a power upgrade here. Get to this one up to 4 as well. Send those off. Again, this will be the plot that first starts turning into a training gym area once we actually know how big it is and whatnot. I'm just trying to get it sustained right now currently. Get the maximum level of extractors. Maybe start leveling up my passive fuel generators on this plot as well. And then hopefully by the time I at least have these all to level 5, the next step for Illuvium 0 will be ready. But with that, that is the end of the day. May have noticed, of course, the overworld kind of ended abruptly. I did have a game crash, I think. Kind of shut that down there for a minute, but we were pretty close to finishing up on that run anyway. I'll double check and make sure we get it locked in, but all should be well there. It's been a very, very fun day. I thank everybody for tuning in and listening to me yap away play Overworld. It was a very, very interesting day, to say the least. Lots, of course, to talk about. You got to hear some of my honest thoughts about some of the things going around Illuvium. When normally I am just an absolute ray of sunshine, I can be honest. And I am honest at the same time. I don't try to hide things. I just try to emphasize on the good. That is all, but it doesn't mean that there's any critical problems. Just wish lists and things I do wish I could see maybe in the future. How I wish some things were handled, but understanding that maybe the bandwidth and the resources just weren't quite there. No anger, no negativity. Just wishing. Of course, game plan for me for the next couple of days. So I am going to be... Let's see if they're probably asleep right now, actually. But I will be... I will be on a podcast happening tomorrow, is all I can say. I don't want to drop and spoil an announcement for somebody else. But let's just say there's a podcast happening tomorrow that does involve Illuvium that I will be taking part of. That's going to be happening tomorrow at 9 in the morning my time. I believe it's 2 p.m. UTC. So it's going to be a little bit later compared to when that podcast normally goes, but I'll be joining them on that channel. You'll see me retweet it, or I'll make a post about it in the morning tomorrow. So that'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to talking Illuvium with the individual. I believe the idea for the stream is essentially the future of Arena now that IPL is over. I imagine I'll probably repeat some of the topics that I was kind of talking about a little bit here today, but with their insight as well onto it, as well as much, much more. Then on Friday, I do plan, assuming that all goes well, to do one more stream here this week on Friday. Maybe not as much yapping, maybe we'll get a little bit more into the arena, we'll have to see. And if there is, of course, any additional news, we'll definitely talk about it then. But until then, I'm gonna go for the day. Maybe see if I can get some of my own video editing done compared to the past, and help out my son, who of course is getting their molars in and needs some cuddles. So without further ado, thank you all again for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow and Friday.